I've never thought I had a natural skill. Like I never grew up thinking, this is my natural talent. And so I always thought this is what people need and maybe I can grow into that. And that's what drove me to be a communicator. It wasn't like, I think this is my craft or this is my area. But I did learn how to be a storyteller. I did learn how to connect to people at a deep level, and that translated. So then I was able to become a writer because of that. And then I worked as a futurist and started working as a consultant for companies. But the reason I could communicate so well was I understood humans. The reason I could write well is that I understood humans. And the reason I could work as a consultant for companies is because I understood humans.
You said something casually, but I want to know how to do it. You said, because you understood humans. How do you understand humans better?
I guess my sales approach is to say, you need to dive into the art of communication.
That's wild.
And I'm telling you, nothing and nobody is guaranteed a future. If you hold on to the past, you will lose the future. And I think right now with the arena, what we're doing is we're just, we're saying there's a future waiting for us. And so many very, very successful organizations are holding on to their success. And so they're losing their chance to create the future. That's why, we're just in this conversation saying, everyone's saying that all the entrepreneurial space is taken, that there's no new ideas, there's no new spaces. I'm like, don't let giant companies fool you. Giant companies cannot move at the level of speed that they did to get them to what made them a giant company. If you move into a market and you move fast and you're inventive and creative and gutsy, you can take over the market because you can move faster. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what, in some sense,
yeah, you feel it.
This is what I'm feeling with the arena. I'm just going to say it. I think the arena is the future.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it. But when you asked about the jack of all trades, I do want to say this. I've never thought I had a natural skill. Like I never grew up thinking, this is my natural talent. And so I always thought this is what people need and maybe I can grow into that. So I spent 10 years working with the urban poor, and I felt like they didn't have anyone who really gave their time to teach and to speak at the highest level possible. So really the first 10 years as a speaker, as a pastor, as a preacher, I was just trying to be the best I could be because these people deserve the best. Because it would frustrate me. I'd go to the grocery store and the food would be expired food. The groceries would be the groceries shipped from the expensive affluent neighborhood to this impoverished neighborhood. The meat would be all the stuff that hit the expiration date, then shipped to this grocery store. I lived for 10 years in an environment where the community always got the worst of everything. And that drove me. I said, I want to be the best communicator in the world. Not because I thought there was a competition, but because I wanted to bring to these people what I felt they deserved, the best of the best. And it didn't matter to me if anyone else ever thought I was the best. And that's what drove me to be a communicator. It wasn't like, I think this is my craft or this is my area. Okay. But I did learn how to be a storyteller. I did learn how to connect to people at a deep level. And that translated. So then I was able to become a writer because of that. And because I treated words as an art form. And so now speaking words and then writing words, it's just transferring my same mastery to a different arena. And then I worked as a futurist and started working as a consultant for companies. But the reason I could communicate so well was I understood humans. The reason I could write well is that I understood humans. And the reason I could work as a consultant for companies is because I understood humans. See, so I don't know if I'm a jack of all trades. I think I'm a jack of one trade and a master in many arenas. And if you develop a mastery in something, you can actually move it to different arenas. And I think that's when you're working from strength to strength.
That's money. That's so good.
Can I flip it on you? Because you started in one part of YouTube and like creating videos as a creator, and now you are like moving into new arenas and new spaces. How's that journey been for you?
It is, yeah, like you said, when you own it in one space or arena or department, that other industries, circles, sectors notice it. And so like it's crazy. I've been invited to speak at masterminds and circles that I didn't even know existed, and then I become the guy in that circle. And it is cool. But all it took was just literally in the mundane, just whipping out videos, making tech tutorials, you know, and like learning the insights of something. I didn't know that at the end of the day, or, you know, 15 years from picking up a camera, that it would be just one of the best uses of time is to make videos in some capacity. And so mixing that with church and all, like, I think the dynamic favor of God, I don't know, like, I think it's been, I think it's very encouraging if somebody doesn't feel like they are at the top of their game yet, just become top in one thing and it will be able to spread. I think there's a principle there for sure.
Yeah, like Aaron is a really extraordinary strategic thinker. Like he can, even when he was little, I would take him to meetings around the world and there'd be 15 people in the room, and afterwards he'd go, "Daddy, can I tell you what I see about every person? And you tell me if I'm right." And he would literally go person by person and go, "That person actually has the talent to pull off what he's saying. That person's never going to do it." He would literally go around the room.
Is that what you guys do? Is that what you guys do on the arena calls?
It is what we do. We just cut through their souls.
And he had such keen insight at an early age that it was astonishing to me how well he could read the disconnect between vision and execution, between a person's values and strategies, and that's like that's his superpower, and he could take that into any arena that he actually had interest in. And, you know, so he could, you know, go into the film world and take that same strategic mind and suddenly become like a great director, or take it into the business world and become a businessman. But it's the same core skill of who he is, but applying it in different spaces.
And what's crazy, just the thought of that, is that the value on you could be 10, 100,000x in this space than in this space. Like, I guess a good example is I've been trying to craft like an offer for a certain type of individual that I'm like, I don't know who it's for, but I know how much I want to charge for it. And so, but when somebody illuminated to me that this ClickFunnels world, where these people are paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to sustain their businesses because their business is built on ad spend, that they don't know, they don't have any idea. All these people don't have audiences. They don't have organic reach. And so learning video for them, it almost is like, dude, take part of this few hundred thousands I'm spending, and I 100% would adopt that. But me trying to find like a small business, trying to start, you know, teaching people who are trying to get into content creation because they have a small business or something, that's not the right individual. But I'm not teaching anything different. I just found a different arena that values it way more, which is just good insight. Because if you're just good at what you do, there could be a sector that would super help.
Yeah, I mean, for years I've tried to tell her, man, start a marketing and branding company. Like, you are a marketing and branding genius. And a lot of people don't realize when you learn skills at the church, when you can make church look cool.
Oh, dude.
You know?
Well, it makes me happy that you like the Instagram, because that was the thing I got. That's the thing I got stuck with, and the thing I got to take on, which was cool.
Yeah.
And it was cool when people started like giving their lives to Jesus, because they're like, hey, we connected with the Instagram, and we started watching the YouTube, and I was like, oh, cool, that's my marketing funnel at the time, right? And it was always to compete with him.
Good. Yeah.
It was like, okay, your personal brand is so much larger than Mosaic's. Because it really was. It was like you were in the 100,000 people touring around the world, and Mosaic was always this kind of smaller, more intimate community. The smallest audience he would ever speak to was Mosaic.
That's crazy.
It's actually true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's
so
the same with Pastor Jabin.
Yeah.
Like, he gets invited to speak at like the biggest churches, and like, this room in here seats 200 people. So on a Sunday, he literally fly in home to speak at his church, and it's like the smallest room.
But there's something cool about that, because it's
So
like you get something different at home than these people are getting anywhere else, right?
Agreed.
And there's something to speak to his character and the dedication with that. Because even with you, it was like I would always tell him like, why do you do that? And he's like, no, because it's the promise is there. It's gonna happen. And then to watch Mosaic become what it's become is really a beautiful thing. I always say that Mosaic swings like far beyond its weight class, because we're not big. But because we don't live with the same limitations of people who really are. So we're able to be wild and do things and just roll with it. And I love that. And so like we talked about a marketing branding agency, and I was like, I don't know if that's what it is, but I do think that the ability to learn honing that skills was a gift to me.
Yeah.
You said something casually, but I want to know how to do it. You said, because you understood humans. How do you understand humans better?
Well, that's a good question. I guess my sales approach is to say, you need to dive into the art of communication, and but not because I'm trying to sell you something, but because in 6 hours you will understand yourself and humans at a level you've never understood them. Because I put a massive amount of anthropology, and that's what people don't realize is that I'm really more of an anthropologist and like a social anthropologist where I understand humans and human interaction, human dynamic, and the art of communication really is an anthropology to help you understand yourself and others. I think some of it is I've always felt like an outsider, so I've always observed humans, and would even use language like as if I was an outsider. I would talk about humans as if they were a species, and I was an alien resident. And Robert Heinlein has a book called Stranger in a Strange Land, and I always felt like that was me. And so because of that, I think I began watching human behavior at a very early age, and then also trying to understand myself, and then going to Chapel Hill and studying psychology and really trying to understand abnormal behavior and understanding why we do what we do, understanding what human brokenness looks like. And then from that, jumping to the other side and trying to understand human genius and what makes people unique, what makes them extraordinary. I think some of it is just paying attention, being interested in people, understanding the difference between action and motive, intent and implementation, and being honest about yourself, like going inside and going, why did I do this? Why do I feel this way? What's causing? You ever felt like you couldn't control your own bodies or your own emotions, responses? And you're going, how can you act this way when I don't want you to act this way? How can you feel this when I don't want to feel this, right? How can you have these thoughts when you don't want to have these thoughts? And it's almost like sometimes you can even take mastery over your own life. And so for me, it was just a deep dive of personal self-awareness and trying to ruthlessly excavate inside of me why I do what I do, why I think what I think, what's going on inside of me. And, so I in some ways it's like, I feel like I have this psychotherapist inside of my brain always saying, Erwin, let's talk about why you did that.
That's good.
And I think that's a part of it. And I think the highest level of intelligence is empathy. And once you can resonate, connect to a human being as if they're not something apart from you, that's when you're really moving to the highest level of understanding.
That's good. And I know so much of what we just talked about is a fraction of what you would get joining the arena. I'll put a link to it in the description of this podcast or on YouTube. And please look and check out all the things. I love that you said that like talk about invaluable. Somebody who's been communicating for over 30 years, somebody who has built things with his family and is building something new. And you say at some point you'll literally watch people's content, you'll watch their talks, you'll watch their stuff, and then see how they can do better.
Yeah,
that's invaluable.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
And I think that's not going to happen forever. So that's why I wouldn't. Yeah.
And it's only happening because Aaron has such a deep, intense commitment to helping people tactically. Like, I think I would be happy just staying up here. Like, I just want to talk from the universes beyond, you know? Yeah. And Aaron's like, no, you need to break down their talk and help them to get better.
This is this is the best example I can come up with. I walked into our office yesterday and there's 4 big IKEA boxes. And that is just devastating to me because then I got to deal with it. And so I show up and I'm like, okay, why are these still here? Why haven't they been built? And then you open an IKEA box and it just has the manual as big as the Bible, right? And if you're stupid enough to put it together yourself, that is like a journey. And like this man was sent without an instruction manual. And so I'm trying to write the instruction manual to go like, what we can't have is a once in a generation. I think that's the worst language you can ever have for someone. Because if it's only once, then you didn't do a good enough job teaching people the thing that you have, that giving people the secret sauce.
Right.
And I'm a big believer on bottling up secret sauce and getting it to everyone.
Sure. Sometimes I feel like Aaron's doing an autopsy on a human being
yeah,
that's
like
still alive.
Sit still. It's like a stab.
But I'm really grateful for it because for years my wife came and said, please teach communication. Please teach communication. I would have never done it if he hadn't sat down with me and going, we're going to pull this out of you. because we need to give this to the world.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of our relationship is Aaron's able to go, all right, Dad, this is what you've been doing. This is what the world needs. And we're going to work really hard to build the bridge that shows people how to get there. And I don't think I have that intrinsic talent to do that. Because some things for me came very intuitively. They came almost out of my essence as a human being. And then Aaron's grown up with me, and he goes, "You're making too many assumptions. You're starting at Q, and people need to start at A. So can we get them to, can we get some B, C, D in here?"
Yeah.
And then the moment he's asking me the right questions, I can see it.
So good.
And I think that's why we work so well together.
Yeah, and I think it's just, sorry, I know we're going a little long, but I think one of the big things was that just attrition. I've been able to sit in the car from like a young boy to now, being 35 years old, and I've heard the little things he said naturally, just subtly, like almost whispers of like, oh, that's why I do that. And being able to, like, one of the things, like, he always walks on stage with a ton of energy. And so when we talked about how do you own a stage, I asked him, like, how do you feel so confident on the stage? How does that stage already feel like it's yours? He's like, oh, I do laps around the room before I ever walk on the stage. So I know every little corner. I'm seeing the people in the back left, in the front left, in the middle. I'm looking at people's eyes. I'm noticing the difference in diversity or age, X, Y, Z. And he goes, in the moment I walk on the stage, I jump into this thing like I have all of this energy. And he's like, when you go up on the stage afraid, you stay up there afraid.
Thanks.
So when you go up there running towards it, it's something that you now own. And I'm like, that. But if you ask him
Like,
twice,
pull
he'll
the
be like,
principle out of that.
I don't know, man. I just have a lot of energy. I'd be like, okay.
That's so funny.